Howdy, y'all. It is once again Skews Day. I'm Trey. That's Mark. It's October 10th, 2023. I don't know that I would rate today a 10 of 10, but here we are. How you doing, Mark?
Good, man. I don't know if you missed the biggest news in the world until shit popped off in Israel, but Commander Biden, Joe Biden's German Shepherd, won't stop biting people.
Mm,
Specifically, it was the biggest cable news covered this like it was the biggest story in the world that Commander
yeah.
Biden apparently has bidden 11 different Secret Service agents and only bites Secret Service agents.
Yeah, that
So,
part's weird. He hates black, not
cops.
black people, but black. Yeah, cops or suits or something. He's like racist against
Yeah.
Secret Service people. That's weird.
Fox News did this
Is he
fun
old?
thing
Is
with,
it an old dog?
no, it's a
You know?
puppy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Apparently, I read like some like German shepherds. It's a bad environment for German shepherd because they're herding dogs and protecting dogs. You got people coming and going a lot of times. All the time, it's very busy. Probably maybe they picked a bad breed of dog for the White House. Anyway, this is a different dog that was biting people before. Because before was Major Biden. He got banished to Delaware. I guess Commander's going to get banished too. But Fox News is fun. A whole
Are they
segment
actually
with.
getting managed? Like that sounds like is it a farm they're going to in Delaware, Mark?
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt Biden's just going to have the Secret Service take him out back and old yeller him or anything. That would be would
Not
be a
probably for the Secret
little too
Service though.
intense. Yeah, I wouldn't know if the PR would be good for that. I'm sure they'd be
Uh,
down for it though, the Secret Service agents. But yeah,
yeah. Fox News did a whole segment on whether it was happening because Joe Biden's old. It's like maybe the dog can sense that Biden's so infirm he's in need of protection, therefore he's biting everyone that comes. It's like okay, whatever. Speaking of Biden related, horny animals, we got another Biden nude controversy. Frank Biden, Joe Biden's younger brother, apparently posted a naked selfie on a gay dating site. A site I never heard of called guyswithiphones.com. Someone dug it up. He posted in 2018, I guess. Uh,
to steal a line that I'm not even sure where it originates, but I see it on the internet all the time. But if I had a nickel for every time one of the president's male family members' dick pics leaked, I'd have like two nickels, which isn't a whole lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
right. Can I, can I make a formal request that I remember the Biden family or anyone with the last name Biden just stop putting their dick on the internet? That would be nice. But like they try to turn this into a scandal, which I don't know. What's the president's brother trying to date? It's like, does this make the president subject to blackmail? It's like, can't imagine like Russia's intelligence apparatus going to Joe Biden and be like, we'll tell the world your brother's gay, and Joe Biden caring at all. It's just like totally fucking
Yeah, I
weird.
mean, honestly, it might, just having a gay brother might even, be an upside for Joe Biden. You know what I mean? Politically,
Politically,
like
yeah.
it plays, I mean, a gay brother with, who's blasting his dick all over the place, publicly, maybe less so, but you'll
It's
have that. The guys with iPhones.com part of it is funny to me too, because it's like I feel like there's more mainstream area, but he's old, obviously, right? He's Biden's brother, so it's like he just did some spare go. Where should I put my dick on the and it just ended up
where
on guys
where
with iPhones.
Yeah, you Google where do guys with iPhones put their dicks, and he just found guys with iPhones. But he's in great shape. I got to tell you, I saw the picture. He's like he's got RFK Jr. body. Other news: Congressman back into session yesterday or today, and Nancy Mace walked in today wearing a shirt with the scarlet A on it, the scarlet letter, because she's been branded an outcast because she voted to oust Kevin McCarthy. And I was like, "Are you called the A in the book? The
Yeah,
A for adulterant.
adultery. Yeah,
Are you calling yourself a whore, Nancy Mace?
right.
What
Yeah,
the hell are you
yeah.
doing? Because
But
she
it's
did get
like
called a
I don't
whore
know.
by yeah.
I don't know what she would like. I wonder if she actually like thought through that and she was like, she considers herself an outcast or a pariah or something. She's like, but if I put an O, no one's gonna get it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I can't do if I just put a red P, people are gonna be trying to figure out what that means. So I gotta go with the A, but A means adulterous or adultery or whatever. So, maybe just don't
You,
do that at all.
you think maybe the rest of her party's banned so many books nobody gets the reference anymore?
Yeah, that would be
Uh,
funny.
it's possible. Updates on a couple labor things. Kaiser Permanente walked out on strike last week. A bunch of nurses, and the thing about nursing strikes is so depressing. Is a lot of what they're fighting for is for more of their patients to live, get better care, and the company's like, no, we need this. We need this money, so people need to die. It's just bleak stuff in the American economy. Good news. United Auto Workers got General Motors to agree their battery factory will be union. I'm going to play this video of Sean Fain, the president of the United Auto Workers. talking shit about it.
GM has now agreed in writing to place their electric battery manufacturing under our National Master Agreement. We've been told for months that this is impossible. We've been told the EV future must be a race to the bottom. And now we've called their bluff. What this will mean for our membership cannot be understated. GM.
You can cut him out. Yeah. So yeah, for the right wing's been doing this. The Republicans and the right and the companies have been doing this thing where they make it sound like there's some huge divide between environmentalism and good jobs, and this just proves that it's a total fucking scam. It's important not just to our economy and middle class, but also the environment and saving the planet. The political stuff, like everything's gotten so scrambled. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the political media just cannot keep up with how much bullshit the Republicans are willing to spend. Like, here's a headline that's actually honest, but it's not from a mainstream website, mainstream news site. Trump attacks United Auto Workers as terrible negotiators and demands their endorsement.
That is a very Trumpian headline right there.
Yeah.
Just insulting them to their face and demanding that they love him, or at least that they get in line.
Yeah. J.D. Vance keeps showing up on the picket lines to do God knows what, since he's opposed to everything the workers want. And here's Representative Marcy Kaptur from Ohio giving him an appropriate amount of shade over his tomfoolery.
Very well. How
Yeah,
you doing?
nice to see you, Marcy.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
First time here?
First time here. Yep.
All right, there you go. That's a bless your heart for a Yankee.
Sure. She also, if you're only listening, she left him hanging on a fist bump attempt, which I also liked. He shook her hand and he went to give her a fist bump, and she just weren't having it.
Yeah, disdain. The Democratic Party is finally learning from people like John Fetterman. Disdain's the only way to greet these motherfuckers. Yeah.
I mean, what is he do? I mean, whatever, just to try to score points or whatnot, but it's just so baldly disingenuous. You know what I mean? Like you said, a Republican senator going to the front lines of a labor movement is, it's a bit much.
I mean, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Israel and Republicans' response to it, but Kevin McCarthy, as part of his bid to try to retake his speakership, was he laid out his 5-point plan to support Israel, and it was to confront anti-Semitism in the U.S. And I was like, buddy, talk to the rest of your caucus.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
He'll do a George Santos slur in the next step. It's if this is in a modern media environment, it'd be like Joseph Goebbels going to a Hanukkah dinner and the press being like, Goebbels reaches out to German Jewish population or something. Mm-hmm. Everyone would be like, oh, well, who's to say?
Yeah. All right. Well, as we just alluded to, we will be getting into all that a little bit later. Producer Matt is with us. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I want to remind you, of course, of a few things. If you'd like to see me perform live, go to TreyCrowder.com. Get your tickets. I'll be in Washington State the rest of this week up there in Producer Matt's stomping grounds. Spokane tomorrow, and then Tacoma for the rest of the week. And then after that, we got the Carolinas, Boston, Chicago, Phoenix, a bunch of fun places coming up, San Francisco. So go to TreyCrowder.com. Come and see me. Also at TreyCrowder.com, you can find a link to me and Corey Forrester's new book, Round Here and Over Yonder. It's a comedic travel guide. People seem to enjoy it. It's a laugh riot, I tell you. You can also you can get the audiobook, which me and Corey read. That hits for people a lot too. Get that at Audible, or just, y'all know where to find books. Find that book. Check it out. You'll like it. If you only watch this show, but if you ever listen to podcasts, if you would subscribe to this podcast, the audio version on your iPhone, your podcast app, we would appreciate it. We would also appreciate if you would check out weeklyskews.com/more. That is our Patreon. If you want to get some more skews in your life and support the show in the process, you can sign up on there. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We do them twice a month. We cover things we don't get to in the main show, other things that happen in between. We just have a good time with it, so check it out. You can also just go on Patreon and look up my name. You'll find it either way. And, make it happen. All right. So with that said, yes, we're going to be talking about, tackling the very simple and straightforward task of unpacking the Israel-Palestine situation. Me and Mark both talked about, before the show started, about how it's probably one of the things we would prefer to avoid talking about the most. But hey, what are you going to do? It's what we do here, and that's all anybody's talking about largely. So we will get into it. But first, we still are going to start with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. The DD tonight is everyone who got vaccinated, since now we can't do this anymore. Hit it. RFK Jr.
Okay, you
Can't
guys
tell.
ready?
All right. How would you rate that form, Mark? We're going to hold up a sign with a number on it right now. What would you give him out of 10?
1 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I thought he was going to do a funny bit there where like he was going to cut to somebody doing a really great flip.
Yeah, that
Like
would
it
have
was him.
hit. So you make it like it's like a black stunt man or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like make it very obvious it's not him, but they execute a perfect, I don't know diving terms, but some really sweet trick. Yeah, they should have you on the campaign staff. I mean, I don't know if you'd take that job, but yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't know, buddy. I've been out of work for 5 months. How much does it pay? So yeah, RFK has pivoted. We knew he was going to announce as an independent, and he finally did it yesterday. He gave a speech yesterday where issues absolutely did not matter. He said, let me read this quote. I'm proud to say that my supporters include both pro-lifers and pro-choicers. They include climate activists and climate skeptics. They include the vaccinated and unvaccinated. We have the first campaign about nothing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, so then what are you going to do for all those people? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you get in and you have all those people, how are you possibly going to like perform the duties of the job if you're trying to please both sides of the political spectrum at all times? Because somehow you've courted them all. I have a feeling that largely what most of those people have in common is being a little bit crazy in some way or digging crazy shit,
Yeah. There were LaRoucheites there. That might be his new his actual target demo. But so we talked last week briefly about how like the poll numbers show that he takes more away from Trump than he does for Biden, which obviously because he's campaigning about nothing except grievances and he's an anti-vaxxer. So like if you're an anti-vaxxer, Trump was actually Trump made the vaccine kind of.
Yeah, right.
So like the natural home for anti-vaxxers is RFK Jr.'s campaign. And so now Republicans, here's a headline, we're RNC in full-blown panic mode over RFK Jr. independent run. So he spent the last 6 to 8 months promoting the hell out of this dude because he thought he was going to run as a Democrat and take votes away from Biden in the primary, damage him. And now it's like, holy shit, he might cost us the election.
Yes. So it's so funny. I made a video about this today trying to avoid the Israel thing, but also I just think this is funny. Like you said, they spent all that time propping him up and everything as he's running as a Democrat. And now it's like they played a Uno reverse card on themselves here. And I find it very, very funny that now that he's like an independent, they're all freaking out. And I know a lot of people on the left are also, a lot of people are pissed, still assuming he will take numbers away from Biden. I'm not trying to like totally discount that possibility. But, like you said, like we talked about last week, the polling seems to indicate otherwise. And I feel like it might seem counterintuitive at first, but when you really like think about it, like you look at who are the only people you ever see like really gushing with praise over RFK Jr. over sharing his videos or takes he has or something like that. It's like, it's not Biden voters, I don't think. It's not liberals. You know what I mean? It's like conspiracy people. It's the tinfoil crowd. It's, that's who it is. So, I mean, it does kind of make sense that he would end up taking more away from Trump. And if that happens, that's hilarious to me.
Dude, Trump's got to be so mad because like in like 2012, 2013, he was openly a vaccine skeptic who was going around saying that maybe he thought vaccines cause autism. And somebody yelled at him that he had to stop saying that if he wanted to actually run for serious office. So he did. Here comes a guy who stole his fucking lane and now he can't have it back. But yeah, you're right. Like the Republicans used to have like a monopoly on people that thought that like 5G combined with the fluoride in the water would make you gay. And now here's the guy taking all those voters. And it is pretty funny for you. Let me read this. The RNC Research Twitter account attacked RFK Jr.'s environmental advocacy, his praise of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and even attempted to criticize him for a tweet about praising Louis Farrakhan over vaccine safety. Pretty hilarious for the RNC to attack Kennedy for promoting conspiracy theory that vaccines cause autism and pushing stolen. Like they're literally criticizing him for pushing stolen election narratives.
Right. It's like they're criticizing him now for the same things that they brought him on to do in the first place, or like the reason they were sharing him around in the first place, like exactly the reason he hid for y'all is what they're trying to go after him for now. It's I don't know,
Yeah,
clown show.
Yeah, watching two lunatics fight's always funny, but they also attacked RFK Jr. On a past comment he made saying that hog farmers are more deadly than Osama bin Laden. Now, I don't have any context for that. I don't need any.
Yeah.
You guys have at it. I ain't in this fight.
They must be getting some going back to his backflip that he did. Like they must be. I feel like they must have gotten like some of the best numbers or whatever metrics they've gotten off of like him shirtless bench pressing and that type of thing. You know what I mean? Like they must have found something that's like, they like when you do, spry athletic shit or take your shirt off or do, wear jeans in the weight room because you're old, you're hit, and this is America, and people
You
eat
run
that
against
up.
you run against 280-year-olds doing a backflip. So about the best campaign pitch you can do. Yeah.
All right. Our first honorable mention, our only honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is the deep state for preventing America from hearing Lara Trump's amazing pipes. Yeah, listen to this.
Well, you have to sing us a line here on Aaron. Come on.
I'll do my best without any music or anything. Okay. Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down.
I don't have a great ear, but she can't sing, right?
No, so I don't know. And I was going to say, normally, I get neurotic when we play like clips that have music on them because I don't want us to get flagged on YouTube or get taken down or something. But I'm not at all worried in this case. Even though this is a very popular song, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can play that all day. I mean, don't, because I don't want people to stab themselves in the ears. But yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And, dude, you could power a small city with the current generated by Tom Petty spinning in his grave right now. Not just because of that she's butchering it, but just also like he would not be down with this shit. Like he was not on y'all's team, dude. He would it's like when they play Born in the USA and stuff like that. They'll pick these like anthems, and almost always the artist, comes out and is like, please stop doing that. I hate you.
Yeah.
But Tom Petty is, unfortunately no longer with us. And so here she goes.
I want to explain what's going on here because it's pretty complicated. But so, yeah, you're right. Tom Petty, he actually hit them with a cease and desist when he was still alive because Trump was playing "Don't Back Down" as rallies. So Laura Trump made this one single, a cover of Tom Petty's "Don't Back Down," and it's not a hit, and she is saying being shadow banned. Yeah, she says she's being shadow banned by the deep state and Apple Music or something because no one's listening to her stupid fucking song. And also, she didn't get the rights to it, so maybe they're not playing her song because they don't want to get sued.
Right?
You can do cover songs; it's pretty murky area. Usually, just ask first and get permission, but obviously she didn't ask. But let me quote here: I am not quitting my day job and trying to be the next Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston. Good for you. So. She tried to buy a billboard in Times Square to promote this launch. And whoever runs the billboard in Times Square wouldn't put up the slogan she wanted because they thought it was like, I don't know, too political or problematic or whatever. So they just put up her picture. It's just a picture of Laura Trump sitting on a horse in Times Square with no context.
Well, speaking of no context, I mean, what is she trying to have? What's she even trying to do by covering this very famous song by an iconic artist when she herself is not a musician? Like, what's the point or the end game supposed to be? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, man. You come sometimes when you're like a wealthy guy who outkicks your coverage by getting a pretty wife, and she wants to do some vanity project. You just got to say yes to it.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. So she's out here. We don't need to play the next Laura Trump video, Matt. But I do want to get to this Trump video in a second because she's not the only one fighting her own pop culture battles. Her father-in-law is on one too. Here's a clip from a speech he gave a couple of days ago.
There we go. Coming right up.
It's a vicious thing. I said, that's Silence of the Lamb. You know what that is? Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs? Hannibal Lecter, how great an actor was he?
So he thinks Hannibal Lecter's real.
Because he said on television, on one of the, I love Donald Trump, so I love him. I love him.
All right.
I love him.
All right. Lots to unpack here. So he thinks Hannibal Lecter's real. and as the actor, and he thinks Hannibal Lecter supports Trump, and that hits for him.
Yeah.
All right, he's obviously talking about Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins never said he liked Trump.
Yeah, I
Okay,
found
so-
that I was skeptical of that too, and I was like, even if that happened, it had to be 30 years ago in some completely other context or something.
So a couple years ago, he was asked some question about politics, and he made a joke saying that I don't think actors should talk about politics because we're stupid. All right, that's it. Trump remembers that as Anthony Hopkins saying that he loved Donald Trump. So, and I'm sorry,
He said he was stupid in public, and we count those. Anyone who publicly claims me stupid, that counts. That counts.
Yeah, so that's as close as I could tell to a political comment about Trump that Anthony Hopkins ever said. Anyway, Anthony Hopkins isn't Hannibal Lecter, so that's a lot. Yeah. So anyway, do you remember a couple weeks ago when Ron DeSantis uses a clip of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho in a pro DeSantis context, comparing himself to? They love serial killers, man. They fucking love serial killers.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, they're mostly white. Narcissists.
Kill women.
Kill women. Yeah, all that stuff. They get away with shit. Usually, they think of themselves as being, brilliant. They outsmart everybody. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of checks out.
Trump knew the guy from the Jinx, right? Bobby, what's his name? Robert. You know what I'm talking about?
Durst
Bob Durst. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, how many serial killers do you think Trump's done in his life?
Oh yeah, that's why. Yeah, especially because he fucked around with Epstein, and there was they had that. They had a whole serial killer wing of that little group. I would imagine. You know what I mean?
There's a Long Island serial killer that worked for Trump. Remember we talked about a couple weeks ago, and then Bob Durst and Jeffrey Epstein. And he probably would hang out. He probably did hang out with Patrick Bateman in the 80s if he existed.
He also at the end of that video he says he's like I don't care if he was the worst actor in the world, I'd still love him because he said he loved me or whatever. And that's just that's also a good insight into Trump. You know what I mean? It's it's literally all you have to do. It's just suck up to him or kiss his ass, compliment him or whatever, and he's openly admits that's all it takes. Say you love me and do what I say, and you'll be all right in my book.
Right.
All right. Well, on to darker topics.
Middle
East, Israel and Palestine. I don't know if you guys heard, but
it's
going down over there.
It got really close to obviously what already happened and has happened, not just Saturday and going forward for the response or going backwards, 90 years, 85 years or whatever. It's I wrote the first version of the outline for this, just so you guys know, is we usually aim for 6 pages, a little shorter. Otherwise, we run over. It was 16 pages, and I was like, okay, we got to cut a lot of shit out.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so it got potentially even way more dangerous at a brief point on Sunday, where we're talking enveloping the whole region and maybe the world, and I don't think people really notice that, or if that notice that how unhelpful a lot of American politicians respond to this, because it was nothing but fucking bloodthirst and vengeance, and in a way that's not really helpful. And you and I were talking earlier, you mentioned at the top of the show how we never really want to talk about Israel and Palestine because it's just too much to talk about in an hour-long podcast from 2 guys who are half educated about it, and there's also no way to talk about it where you can't make everyone mad.
Right. Yes. If you're not firmly on one, a side or the other, and then you'll just piss off the other half. But I just, it's real complicated. But also, I've seen some people on the internet and otherwise, I'm assuming, hardcore lefties or whatever, very pro-Palestine people, basically implying that pretty much anything that Hamas does is justified because of the circumstances of, with Israel and all that. And I just I'm just not even a little bit on board with that. The type of shit that they did on Saturday is never justified in my mind, regardless. But then on the other side, they are horrifically oppressed. It is a fucking apartheid and colonialism and all that shit. And that don't hit for me either. But you just ought not ever be killing women and children, parading raped corpses through the streets and that type of thing. I don't care what your ideology is. That's pretty much how I feel about it, generally speaking.
Right. But also, we're talking about how there's no way to talk about that making everybody mad. If you say you shouldn't kill innocent women and children, either side could take that, get mad at you for saying that as an unfair criticism.
Right, because they both be doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I firmly come down on, like you, the killing women and children is in unarmed combatants is bad, no matter who's doing it. And my main political position is that everyone should be not killed
Mm-hmm.
and be able to live a normal, happy life. Does that seem? Have I said anything that's going to make anybody mad yet? So neither. A couple things out of the way. Neither the Palestinians or the Israelis are their government.
Right.
Hamas isn't even really a government, but that's a whole complicated situation on its own. More context, hundreds of thousands of Israelis took to the streets earlier this year in protest of Benjamin Netanyahu's government and their dictatorial power grabs, and among other things, including their policy towards Palestinians and shit. Presumably, some of those people who are pro-Palestinian were one of the people murdered by the Palestinians. All right, this shit's fucking messy. It's talking about how much people are their governments. Netanyahu barely hung on to power last election last year. He cobbled together his coalition of right-wing psychos that took 64 out of 120 seats in parliament. Okay, it's not like he's ultimately popular in Israel before this, and he's likely to be less popular after this because this was a huge fuck up.
Right.
On the other side, Gaza has millions of people, and Hamas claims according to Israel, Hamas is about 30,000 soldiers. All right. As far as how much they reflect the popular will of the people in Gaza, the last election held in Gaza was 17 years ago. All right. So Hamas, by the way, is an acronym that stands for Islamic Resistance Movement, and the word itself, Hamas, means zeal in Arabic. They're literally saying they're zealots.
Right.
If you ask Benjamin Netanyahu to describe himself, he probably describe himself as a zealot. So you got two groups of people who are largely just want to live their lives, who are caught in literal and figurative crossfire between a bunch of fucking people who want war and death.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, like Hamas, they openly just want war, right? And they're not bothered by like civilian casualties, even on their side a lot of times, right? Like they play right, like Hamas is bad. I'm not saying Palestine is, right? Like you said, the Palestinians it's not the same thing. Like Palestine, I feel bad for the regular people in Palestine, but like Hamas is monstrous in a lot of ways. But Netanyahu's Israel
has
also
elevated
IDF.
Hamas.
Yeah, right.
Netanyahu elevated Hamas's status because they make a convenient boogeyman for him, but he literally made them a negotiating partner with him. Like he's who he deals with in Gaza. He did this to sideline the Palestinian Authority because he wanted to handicap their ability to push towards a two-state solution, because he doesn't want that. So to divide the Palestinians, he elevated Hamas. He made them more powerful. So he's a really cynical operator. There's a bunch of people here that just want war. And you're right, Hamas does want a wider war. That's why we'll get to the Iran part of this in a second. We should not take their word for it, because what they want, just like Osama bin Laden intentionally drew us in the Middle East to make us more convenient targets to kill a bunch of Americans and to damage our standing in the world and suck trillions of dollars out of our economy. And, his plan fucking worked because we fell for it. And that's essentially what Hamas is trying to do to Israel.
Right. I mean, yeah. Right? I mean, it's already been compared by a lot of people, Israel and just everybody, to, it's like, this is Israel's 9/11, right? Me and Matt were talking about before we started, but a lot of people are saying that. And it's like, you just broke down everything that happened to us after 9/11. It's like, well, maybe try to treat it as a bit of a cautionary tale if you can.
Right.
Like, look at America and how it's like, no one blamed America for retaliating after 9/11, and they didn't, you know what I mean? It was like seen as totally justified considering what had happened and whatnot. But then, like, look at how everything went after that, a quagmire that like we literally just got out of by fucking everything up completely at the very end 2 years ago, year or two ago or whatever it was, like, and that was 20 something years ago. So like, keep all that in mind. Of course, I mean, they've been at war over there for just ever anyway, but yeah.
That's why, like, I'm trying to be as dispassionate as possible when I talk about stuff like morality, because I want to try to keep this in terms of like what's going to work and what's likely to cause a bad reaction to. Because I remember talking about a buddy of mine who was for invading Iraq in like 2003. And he was like, he was talking in terms of morality, like whether cause us belly or whether they had the right to invade Iraq. And I'm like, I'm not arguing. We're the most powerful country in the world. We're going to do whatever we want anyway. It doesn't matter what the UN says. But besides that, is it likely to help?
Right.
Is it a good idea? Can we debate that? Because it wasn't a good idea. And if I could time travel back to after 9/11 and be like, I know everyone's mad. This is probably going to make things worse. And it did. And I'm just,
to
so
be fair,
let's
and I'm
look
sure you probably were too, but like, I mean, there were people, and I'm sure there's people in Israel right now doing the same thing. But like,
a
there
ton
were
of them.
people in this country back then saying all that about the Iraq part, at least. You know what I mean? Like, there were plenty of people being like, "This is not going to help. This is going to make things worse," whatever. And
There are
bloodlust won out.
We're going to get to it in a little bit, but there are louder voices in Israel calling for restraint and retaliation than there are in the United States, right? But in going back to your 9/11 thing, like, people were posting the take about it. I understand, like, Israelis are fucking pissed, right? I remember how I felt here after 9/11. But someone was like, well, they didn't urge us to use restraint after 9/11. I'm like, well, maybe someone should have. Like, it's like, maybe, because like Hamas's actions over the weekend, we'll get to exactly what they did in a minute, and without being graphic. But it's not likely to aid the Palestinian cause for freedom. And what Israel's about to do, is in the middle of doing, in my mind, is not going to make them more safe. So to me, that's the two things to keep in mind here. So Hamas basically Saturday invaded a three-pronged invasion in southern Israel, air, sea, and land. And we're talking like dinghies. With the sea versions like dinghy boats and rubber boats, and the air version they use parachute plane. Like, we're not talking about an Air Force here. They use parachute planes you can buy off Amazon. Where you use the parachute as the wing, and it's got a fan on the back, and like one guy driving it, and another guy with a gun on the front. Right? We're not talking about a high-tech fucking operation here. It was time for the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, which is when Egypt and Syria attacked Israel by surprise in 1973.
Yeah, literally, like on the day of, right? It was like the 50-year anniversary, and it's like that's part of one of the many reasons why this is seen as such like a major intelligence failure on Israel's part, right? Is it's like, how like you would think they'd be like on alert on a day like that, for they'd be having more scrutiny towards this type of thing.
It is like one of the 9/11 parallels is like a huge intelligence failure, except it's a way bigger intelligence failure. Gaza is one of the most closely surveilled places on Earth. They literally have sensors in the ground surrounding it, so they know when people are digging tunnels or step over the fence. The drones surveilling it 24/7. Netanyahu, his government apparently pulled a lot of troops away from the Gaza border to go to the West Bank to help some settlers do some hate crimes or something. That's according to like a bunch of left-wing Israeli military veterans who are against the occupation, right? So maybe take it with a grain of salt. But you got to, when enemy soldiers are running amok in your territory for hours upon hours, killing civilians, and there's no defense, you got to wonder where the fuck was the army, and that's why Israelis are really mad at Netanyahu right now too.
Right.
And Egypt, by the way, says they warned Netanyahu that something big was coming. It's just like, but. So how this happened is going to be a really big question, and it's one he wants to squash with a big war to try to get a rally around the flag effect to save his own fucking ass. So, like, Hamas had been they constructed a mock Israeli settlement in Gaza where they practiced a military landing and trained to storm it, and they filmed it and put it on the internet. Israel saw it and thought they were just playing around.
Right.
Like, that's worse than the people Arab immigrants are taking flight lessons with no landing. That's a way bigger red flag than that.
Didn't they think that they kind of had them placated with like money for a while? Like they had like economic incentives going with them and stuff like that. I mean, Israel did for Hamas, for people in Gaza. So like Israel says that they thought that like they didn't, that Hamas like actively did not want any conflict at this point in time or whatnot. And so
right. I mean, they give a few token like work permits for people to leave to go to work. It's like Gaza's not a fun place to live, man. People call it an open air prison. I don't know if that's totally fair, but they're surrounded by a fence. Israel controls who comes and goes, controls all their trade, limits their access to food and medical care.
Yeah.
Only a few people get
millions of people there, right? Like it's not very big. There's 2 million people. It's like very densely populated.
It's the most densely populated area on Earth.
Oh damn! I didn't know that.
People piled up on top of each other. Like Israel cuts off the food, the water, and electricity at whims, right? So like it's pretty easy to radicalize people in that kind of environment. That goes back to the "is this going to work" thing. So the death toll last I saw, Israel and the Israeli side was 900 killed, including 260 people who were just at a music like an EDM festival. At least 14 Americans were killed. They took 130 or so hostages back to Gaza. Some of them are children. There's also like a bunch of disinformation floating around that's trying to make the situation even worse than it is for some reason. Like there was a report floating around, I think even some mainstream news outlets picked up, that like Hamas militants had beheaded 40 babies, and that's not true. Like, the stuff they did is fucking bad enough, man. Like,
Right.
you don't have to like do that. Maybe somebody did, but I don't know. I haven't seen documentation of it, but somebody just made that up and put it out there, and it went viral and got picked up. There's like video game clips going viral. People are saying from the war. One showed like a helicopter air assault that someone claimed was Hamas. It's from a video game called Arma 3, and like people think the Hamas has like attack helicopters.
Right.
Like, what the fuck planet do people live on?
But do you know, was that just some random person who posted it and claimed that and it went viral because people believed it versus like,
Right.
not like a journalist or anything like spreading. It's like sensationalism and rumors and shit just like run amok, especially in the internet age when something like this happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it don't help. None of it helps.
Yeah. So, what are context here for these? Like, so Israel has amassed 300,000 troops. I think I saw the number on Gaza's border. They're pounding them into submission beforehand. And of course, they say they're trying to hit Hamas, and these civilian casualties are going to be collateral. But like, if they had good intelligence in Gaza on Hamas, where Hamas was, they probably would have known they were mounting an invasion, right? So this is the most right-wing government in Israeli history. Has been they have invaded Gaza in 2006, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2021. They basically do it every 2 years. Netanyahu calls it mowing the lawn. That's how routine it is to bomb the shit out of fucking.
That's pretty rough, knowing that they like officially call that type of excursion mowing the lawn. But yeah, 2020 or COVID obviously made them miss a year. That's tough. I don't know if they were so taken aback. I don't know if they were so taken aback by the Trump, rise in 2016. But yeah, other than 2016 and 2020, it's a biennial thing. It's every other year for like almost the last 20 years.
I laughed when you said COVID, but I just laughed because I thought it was a joke, but it's probably not a joke. It probably was a huge outbreak in Gaza because they didn't let them get medicine. They want to send troops in there.
I mean, I was joking, but yeah, probably was. I bet they were bummed that they had to wait, until lockdowns lifted or whatever to do their, biennial bombing campaign.
Mm-hmm. So talking about what's not going to work. So the first thing they did was cut off all food and water going into Gaza. The median agent got.
What is that supposed to do? Like you're going to make people more desperate than they already are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's not. How's that going to help? Like I don't understand.
It's not going to help. If you think it through for half a second, because Hamas is prepared for this, the one that picked the time and place for it, so they probably saved up food and water. So the median age in Gaza is 19 years old. If you're a 19-year-old in Gaza, what are you supposed to do to get food and water? The answer is join Hamas.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that hits for Hamas. It's like you said, because now they can go to these people who are super desperate and give them like an option. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's fucked up, right? Your family's starving, whatever. Here's a gun. We'll take care of it, type of thing.
Yeah,
and people are going to take them up on that.
And I know I'm a fucking bleeding heart liberal, but like this idea that this isn't likely to work is not some hippy dippy thing. Like Shin Bet, which is like Israel, one of the intelligence, Israeli intelligence agency, is like their domestic CIA that focuses on like combating, like for one example, a Palestinian terror threat. Here's a report they put out a couple years earlier this year. The head of Shin Bet, the Israeli Domestic Intelligence Service, warned Netanyahu earlier this year that deadly attacks by settlers on Palestinians would increase the security threat to Israel. He was roundly denounced by members of Netanyahu's Likud party. One Likud member of parliament complained, the ideology of the left has reached the top echelons of Shin Bet. The deep state has infiltrated the leadership of Shin Bet and the IDF. So, like, their FBI counterintelligence chief or whatever is like, you're going to make more radicals. This shit's not working. And they called him woke.
Woke, yeah. It's just like in this country, like the FBI being woke for a while and that type of thing. You know what I mean? It's a similar situation. It's like the people who would know when they say something that you don't want to hear, then you just immediately got to like discredit them, call them pussies or whatever, and then go back to doing what you wanted to do. It's like, why do you even have them in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, what are they there for if you're not going to fucking listen to them on a subject like this?
The guy that got in that position is probably personally killed or ordered the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians.
Right.
And some fucking soft ass politician, when he tells them their strategy is not going to work, is like, this guy's a fucking commie.
Snowflake.
So this, and go back to the idea that like this could possibly work. Like so they're promising to hit Palestinians in Gaza harder than ever, but like how much harder can you fucking hit them? Like
Right.
they've been hitting them over and over again for like, we just listed all the times they've invaded and killed a bunch of people. They're constantly bombing them, and they were able to mount the most successful operation they've ever attempted after all that. Right? So like, if it didn't work the first time, and I
Yeah.
know like, I'm not like, again, I understand Israelis are humans. They have like there's a very human thing to want a bunch of revenge. That's why you need somebody in charge.
Right.
To be like, to find somewhere else to put it to make it productive. And like, if you think about the possible solutions here, you got a two-state solution where Palestine gets to be its own country, which Israel probably finds intolerable because you're going to have they'll have control of their own borders and be able to build their own military, funded by Iran, for example,
Right.
and rain hell down upon them whenever they want. All right, but then you have a one-state solution where you just let Palestinians be citizens, let them vote, let them have access to benefits and stuff, and then everybody tries to live together. The problem is it's not going to be acceptable to a lot of zealots on either side.
Mhm.
You've got the middle part's the hard part, where you got to suffer a bunch of stochastic and organized terrorism for people who don't want society to make progress, and that's really difficult to suffer through. The third solution is Israel kills everyone.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like they seem to be committed to a slow motion version of the third one, and that's the part that I find like not great. It's worth noting here that like Netanyahu is like facing 3 different trials for corruption and almost lost the last election. Like I said, to stay in power, he created a coalition with the biggest right wing psychos in the country, including one guy who literally was ruled ineligible to serve in the. They have mandatory military service.
Yeah. Right.
This guy wasn't admitted to the IDF because he was too crazy.
And now he's like in charge.
He's in charge of one of the defense ministries. He has a poster on his wall office of a guy who was a mass shooter at a mosque.
Bro,
right?
what? That is wild.
So the Israeli defense minister, his name's Gallant, I might be pronouncing it wrong, said, "I have ordered a complete siege in the Gaza Strip. We're fighting human animals and we act accordingly." So far, they've killed at least 830 people in Gaza, injured another 4,300. That includes, depending on your count, between 33 and 100 children. So
it's wild for a Jewish guy in Israel to be like so actively dehumanizing the opposition like that. You know what I mean? Calling them animals and implying that, they need to be eradicated and stuff. It's like, this don't remind you of anything else, man. Like, this don't, you know what I mean? Like, you guys have been here before on the other side of it, but.
Let me give you another quote here. It's from the Israeli finance minister. His name's Smotrich. He was arrested in 2005 on organizing violent nationalist activity, by the way. He said, talking about, because Palestine took a bunch of hostages for a bunch of reasons. 1, human shields. 2, to trade, to get people out of prison, right? So as a prisoner swap. The human shield part's not going to work because, according to him, quote, "We have to be cruel now and not consider the captives over much." So they're saying they don't mind blowing up their own people if they get to kill some Palestinians too. So yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot about Palestinians. I mean, the Israel here because they have most of the agency because they have all the power. This is not to excuse any of the shit Hamas did. Right. Saying Hamas is a small percentage of Gaza. It's just like they don't. Most Palestinians have no say in any of this shit. Just like most Israelis don't either. It's just like who's going to decide how many people die going forward is mostly the Israeli government, at least in the short term, medium term. My main point is that Netanyahu's government does not need to be egged on right now. They do not need to be like, have their buddy, their hype man, America in the corner being like, yeah, fuck them up. It's not helpful. Well. Enter American Republicans.
Yeah, I was say, well, that's exactly what we do. I mean, sometimes we're in the ring. You want us to come in there and fuck him up for you? That's what I'm worried about. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, that's we're gonna be all over this shit, especially the Republicans.
Marco Rubio went on CNN yesterday and called for pretty much everyone in Gaza to be, quote, eradicated. The context, this does remind me of after 9/11 over here, even though it didn't even happen to us. Senator Ed Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts, was booed by a Boston crowd for calling for de-escalation. He said, maybe we should de-escalate, and a crowd booed him. All right. And there's like this ratcheting effect that happens. We talked about it with like in terms of being soft on crime or tough on crime stuff, or you can't say anything in the other direction. You basically get called like a coward or pussy or whatever. People need to sound tough on television. So they say all kinds of crazy shit, and it supersedes any other possible response. So if you say like you have two sides of an argument. Basically, like this war will kill tens of thousands, immiserate nations, create generations of resentment, and ultimately leave everyone far worse and off and far less safe. The other side of the argument is can't sound weak, and can't sound weak wins every fucking time.
Right.
And again, in context, this is going to get a lot of Israelis killed too. This is not like picking a side. Being pro people being alive is the least popular side to be on.
Yeah, their kind of fascination with Israel and undying support for it's always been kind of wild to me because, of course, the American right, that's where all the anti-Semites are at. They call them all globalists. They don't seem to care overly much for Jews, but fucking love Israel. And that used to always be wild to me. But it's like, I mean, I get, Israel is surrounded by Muslims who they hate even more than Jews, right? And so like that
But you
part,
gotta
but also
remember
like
the book of Revelation.
evangelicals, I was going to say, like I have known that for a while now, but I didn't always know that part because I'm Bible dumb. I didn't grow up in church. And hearing that part is like, that is so fucking wild. But yeah, a lot of right wing, a lot of Christian conservatives, it has to do with like bringing about the rapture eventually, right? Like the Jews have to be in Israel and everything for like Jesus to come back at the end of the world and all that shit. It's all like biblical in nature. And that's a big part of why they're so pro-Israel. And that's like, that does not hit for me. Like that's crazy, dude. That's so wild.
Yeah, I saw somebody that covers Christian nationalism screen grabbed a conversation from like a mainstream Christian forum where people were debating, well, Israel's at war now. Does that mean Jesus is coming back?
Right.
And I'm like, these half of Republican Congress people probably surf that.
Yeah. Forum. Right.
So in this context, Ron McDaniel went on TV on Sunday on like Meet the Press and said this was this Hamas killing 1,000 Israelis, an Israeli retaliating killing 1,000 Gazans so far was, quote, a great opportunity for Republicans. And then here's Donald Trump talking about this, I think, earlier today.
And now it even pertains to Israel. What happened yesterday was incredible. I mean, well,
it's incredible.
So many people killed. I don't know.
So remember after the Pulse shooting when Trump tweeted, appreciate the congrats?
No, because, he's done so much other shit. But like, congrats from who?
Nobody in particular. He just said appreciate the congrats. Like he was right about Muslims because one shot up a nightclub in Florida or something. It's like the cacophony of the Republican response has been either to blame Biden for shit Hamas did.
Of course, right.
Or to like say that we should go to like Gaza's like 25 miles long and 5 miles wide. Israel does not need our assistance to fuck them up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure who we're supposed to like go to war with. But anyway, let's go roundup of like the responses so far. Tim Scott said Joe Biden funded these attacks on Israel. J.D. Vance said Americans must face a stark truth. Our tax dollars funded this. I'll explain the root bullshit of this in a second. Trump said, sadly, American taxpayer dollars help fund these attacks, which many reports are saying come from the Biden administration. It sounds like he's saying the Biden administration helped plan the attacks. Rick Scott and Vivek Ramaswamy both echo these sort of claims. So these two big lies they're pushing are ones that Hamas used weapons that we gave to Ukraine, which doesn't make any sort of sense if you know anything about any of these nations' politics or agendas. One, Iran and Russia are allies, if that matters, and Iran's ally with Hamas. So I'm not sure why Ukraine would fund would give arms to a country
help out
allies of Russia.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Also, Ukraine needs the weapons we sent them. That's why they asked for them. They're not going to like give them away. Also, Ukraine has been soliciting Israeli support, and while Netanyahu's been kind of winking at Russia because he fucking sucks, so he loves Russia. If it matters at all, Russia's foreign minister recently met with Hamas, and by the way, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley has called for redirecting U.S. aid for Ukraine to Israel, as if like the kind of weapons that would actually help this situation would be defensive weapons, like Israel has an Iron Dome that stops a lot of rockets coming in.
Yeah,
I'd be all for supplying stuff like that because it would reduce Israel's need to escalate. Like Hezbollah lobbed a few rockets in yesterday; they were mostly stopped as a show of solidarity with Hamas and Gaza.
But isn't Israel like fully fucking loaded anyway? Like they're strapped hardcore already, right? Because of their long-standing relationship with us and everything. Like they don't really need anything from us for all this
Yeah.
right now.
They have
right?
F-16s, tanks, nukes. They got everything to go.
Yeah.
They got the fourth most powerful military in the world. The other big lie that they're pushing is that Iran funded this with this $6 billion that we just gave them in exchange for releasing hostages. One, we didn't give them $6 billion. All right. That's what all the quotes listed above were about that conspiracy theory. What happened was, in exchange for freeing hostages, the Trump administration had let Iran sell some oil back when they were in office, but the money was kept locked in a bank account in South Korea. We released the bank account, the funds, to go to a different bank account overseas by the U.S. Treasury, where the money can only be used for food and medicine, to buy food and medicine to directly hand it out. And they're going, "Oh, money's fungible. That frees up money to spend on weapons." I'm like, I'm not sure if you're giving the Iranian government too much or too little credit. You're saying they would let their people starve and buy weapons if we didn't, or whether you're saying they wouldn't do that, but therefore we free up the weapon. I'm not sure. It's so cynical. I can't even fucking. The Iranian regime fucking sucks. But I'm saying there's non-humanitarian reasons to give your people food and medicine, for example, so they don't overthrow you and put your heads on pikes.
Right.
Right. Anyway, not a dollar, whether money's fungible or not a dollar of it has been released yet.
Right.
Literally
So
not
it's
$1.
just straight up not true. But that's like they do this all to take something where it's like something that kind of sort of is related to what they're saying happened that actually did happen. In this case, $6 billion of Iran's own money that we unfroze for only specific purposes, and then sometime in the future. But then they take that and just use it to say, we gave Iran $6 billion, which led to these weapons being purchased by Hamas, and that's Joe Biden's fault. And they can just do that with a straight face, and it works, they can just straight up say shit that isn't true, and it doesn't matter because that's what people on their side want to hear. So they hear it and never question it at all and just get pissed and continue with their day.
These people are like, America's too powerful to have these people put in charge of it any way, shape, or form. It's like, this is dangerous fucking shit. And the most dangerous point of this weekend, while we're talking about Iran, so Wall Street Journal had this report. Let me read from it. Iranian security officials helped plan Hamas's Saturday surprise attack on Israel and give the green light for the assault at a meeting in Beirut last Monday, according to senior members of Hamas. Okay, a couple things. One of the reporters with the byline on this story was previously fired from another job for making up stories. All right. Secondly, Hamas wants a bigger war, like I pointed out earlier. Why are you taking Hamas's word for it that Iran also needs to be attacked? Because Israel would itch to nuke fucking Iran over some shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
Israel attacks Iran. Yep. That's going to be a legit war. So now we have to come in on Iran side. Okay. So
Russia, on Israel's side.
Oh, Israel's side. Sorry.
And then,
Russia
and
comes in on Iran's side.
Russia. Right. Now it's World
War
III.
Now we're in a shooting war with Russia. So that means NATO's activated. So Europe's at war. This is don't just go saying shit like that, Wall Street Journal. Mm-hmm. All right. So Washington immediately pushed back. So they saw no sign of any Iranian involvement. I don't understand where Iran's at right now, why they would want to do this. I don't doubt that some small part of the Iranian, defense intelligence apparatus could potentially be involved in something like this. That doesn't necessarily, if the CIA does some shit, that doesn't mean the National Parks Department was in on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Iran quickly denied it, and Israel also said they saw no links between the two. And I was like, whew, thank fucking God. Even if they're all lying, this is a very good lie to be telling, because there's no coming back from there.
Right.
But the general Republican position here seems to be the threat from Hamas, again, an army of 30,000 people with rifles, is so dire we need to divert all foreign aid from Ukraine, but also it's no big deal that they blocked all these roles from being filled. There's no U.S. There's no ambassador in Israel, Egypt, Lebanon, Oman, Kuwait, no confirmed top U.S. aid official for the Middle East for 3 years, and no State Department coordinator for counterterrorism for the last 2 years. This is because of Tommy Tuberville, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and a couple others holding up mass slates of appointments just out of fucking spite.
Mm-hmm.
And ambassadors matter. This is how shit like this gets de-escalated, is by having people in those towns that can go shake hands and talk to people and have heart-to-hearts. And I remember talking to somebody when Trump got elected about how dangerous it was, just that he was hauling out the State Department, the brain drain from chasing the air quote deep state out of everything. It's going to mean more wars for generations because we don't have any sort of expertise as far as how to get out of this situation. Like, if these psychos had been in government during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the war
Oh,
would be
goddamn,
over.
dude. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, blaming Biden at the same time that their policies and obstructionism and everything is actually making it all worse.
Fox News did a segment today talking about these vacancies like Biden just never nominated anybody.
Right.
They're really blaming him for the Senate not approving an ambassador to Israel. So in the context of all this, Tommy Tuberville's fucking dipshit ass, he filed a police report against the former CIA director for a mean tweet. Michael Hayden, somebody said that Tommy Tuberville should be removed from his committee, and General Michael Hayden, who's former director of the CIA, quote tweeted with "How about the human race?" and he reported it as a death threat. What a goddamn baby! All right, all these people are incompetent. The Army is telling Congress to please do your job, meaning find a Speaker of the House and start approving these bills to have aid because the world's at a dangerous place. We need to like arm Ukraine and figure out what Israel needs to make it feel safer, so it doesn't fucking turn the rest of the Middle East into sheet glass. And Kevin McCarthy used this moment to say he's open to returning to the speakership because the world desperately needs Kevin McCarthy.
Right, clearly.
Just as a show of how unserious Republicans are about how the U.S. conversations all bluster and no nuance. You read more sensible takes in Israeli newspapers. Here's Haaretz, Israel's newspaper record. Quote, Israel can't imprison 2 million Gazans without paying a cruel price. You would not see that opinion in an American newspaper. And here's Israel's New York Times printing this opinion piece. Right. Here's another editorial in Haaretz. The disaster that befell Israel today is a clear responsibility of one person, Benjamin Netanyahu. The prime minister completely failed to identify the dangers he was conspicuously leading Israel into in establishing a government of annexation and dispossession while embracing a foreign policy that openly ignored the existence and rights of Palestinians. An Israeli who was literally just shot at, spent the day running from Hamas, says there's nothing that can justify what's happened. Absolutely. Yet I know that what they've been through. I've heard their stories. When so much hate builds up in you, this is the outcome. Desperate people are dangerous.
Yeah.
A woman who was just shot at by the bad guys that Marco Rubio was screaming about has a more sensible take about what it will take to get out of this situation than any American politician I've heard talk about it.
Right. Because it sounds like she actually has experiences with the people on the other side, like on a personal level. Like she's actually talked to them and spent time with them and stuff like that. And, when you do that, you tend to be more empathetic. It breeds understanding eventually. But then you have people like Marco Rubio probably never stepped foot over there and don't know shit about it. Talking about how everybody needs to be eradicated. Yeah. Not good.
I mean, it's like I'm just like throwing this out. Like we've done the same thing over and over and over again for close to a century. Maybe something different.
Yep.
That's my wild pitch. I don't know what it is. I just know maybe something different. And thoughts and prayers to the people, the powerless people on both sides of this conflict who are going to be killed by their fucking governments and militias. So it's just so stupid.
Yeah, and I got a feeling it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, I would imagine. So, yes, wish the best. Like you said, thoughts and prayers, but I don't pray. I hope everybody. I just hope that it doesn't get too bad. Don't know what else to say, but
Netanyahu goes to prison. You get a sensible leadership who finds some path to negotiate, find an honest negotiating partner somewhere in Gaza they can deal with to get them more humanitarian aid so they're less radicalized, and find them ways to have actual jobs and lives and medicine. And then less Israelis will die, less Gazans will die, less Americans will die because it won't radicalize fucking Al Qaeda. This shit, so like it's just get groups like Al Qaeda. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you all for being with us this week. We appreciate it. Real quick, again, come see me on the road. Go to TreyCrowder.com. Check the book out Around Here and Over Yonder. Subscribe to this podcast on your podcast platforms. Hit that like button, smash it, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And check us out on Patreon, weeklyskews.com/more. But most importantly, keep coming back on Skews days, and we will too. We'll see y'all next week.